Bum 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 ba-na-na-na, bum 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 da-na-na-na, bum. Dum 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 dum. All right, everybody. We'll turn that back up. And let's go ahead and just kill it, everybody. We're back. Wow, it's been like a long time. Go ahead and kill that. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to SketchCraft Live. I'm Rob Duenas, Graphic Artist Esquire, and that thing is going on repeat again. Look at that. I'm already back. Already got one technical issue. Excellent. Well, if you're joining in again, you will know that these things happen often, but, you know, I'm working on it. You should also know that we typically ran about art, movie, and comic-related news stuff chosen either by myself or you, the audience, or the people joining me today, one of which is Brandon Lead Heavy James. Say hello.
Hello.
Also returning is Ashley West from GangForThe.com. Ashley, say hi.
Hey.
Hey, so it's been, almost feels like 2 weeks, but it hasn't really been for me. Brandon, you feel the same way?
It feels like a weird school vacation.
Mm-hmm. Ashley, you for you it's normal time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Brandon and I, we went to the amazing Arizona Con, and we're going to talk more about that later. But it's time compression, somewhere between jet lag and I don't know, an alternate universe. So that being said, we got a bunch of stuff up on the board. Before I get to all my crazy topics, I thought I'd just check in with Ashley and see if you have anything you want to talk about before we head into stuff.
Yeah. All right. So I recently just did I guess you could call it fan art of Venom, and I did the crazy monster version of Venom, which pretty much that's my topic. Is I feel like today Venom is pretty much seen as this giant T-Rex sized monster instead of the original. And I believe did Todd McFarlane do the original Venom?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, his started out as more of like this just creepy man with teeth. And I just want to know, like, who started the crazy giant Venom?
Capcom.
Capcom.
Yeah, honestly. Well, Venom was always bigger. So
Yeah,
to
he
get this
was.
straight, Todd McFarlane sort of created Venom around 1986, 87, around there, about Amazing Spider-Man 300. If you look, there's this thing I always reference called Todd Talks. It's archived. If you go to the Internet Archive, it's buried within Spawn.com. You can't get to it naturally, but buried within Spawn.com is this thing that he did several years ago, where he put up a bunch of images from his past, from all the way through his career, from when he was in high school all the way up until 2006 or 7. And he did MP3s, where he kind of walks you through his career, which is a pretty inspirational thing for me to listen to at the time. And one of the things that he showed was an initial sketch of the Violator he did in high school, which became Venom. Like, he basically drew the Violator in Spawn when he was in high school, and then when he got a chance to be on Spider-Man, made the Violator into Venom. So the funny part was when he eventually did Spawn, people were like, oh, the Violator looks like Venom. You know, got the same fangs and stuff. And I'm like, actually, that's Venom. So, like, Venom was Violator. It's weird. But the version you reference is a sort of monstery version. Most people would say Scotty Young came up with that look.
I disagree.
But that's not true. Marvel superheroes, I might want to say, is the first time I've seen that look. Marvel superheroes. Capcom basically took over the Marvel license and did a bunch of fighting game stuff. The first of which was X-Men Children of the Atom, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they moved from X-Men Children of the Atom to Marvel Superheroes, which had Venom. And that really sort of added all these crazy, like, claw moves, and it made the symbiote act like If you've seen Full Metal Alchemist, like the little kid, what's his face? Kind of like all monstery with big teeth everywhere.
Envy or whatever. Or
Envy, yeah. So much so that when I did this Venom piece a couple years ago, my Copic piece, I added that mouthy thing from the game in that piece. And we were just at a con, right, Brandon? People are like,
Yep.
where's that teeth from? And I'm like, it's from Marvel Superheroes. And then that sort of got picked up by like Scotty Young, Joe Mad. You know what I mean? And sort of taken to the nth degree. Like,
I'm going to chime in.
all right.
I say the look that she's referring to and the look that she kind of based hers off of is more off the Ramos run on Spider-Man when Humberto Ramos.
Yeah, but Capcom, they're all getting their design
No,
stuff from Marvel Superheroes.
I get that. I mean, they amped it up, but the giant Hulk-like almost symbiote Venom that from just looking at Ashley's art reminds me of the Ramos look. Humberto
Yeah, but the
Ramos.
Scotty Young miniseries predates the Ramos run.
Okay.
The Venom run that Scotty Young did was between 2002, 2003, 2004. Ramos didn't start drawing Spider-Man until like 2006 or something. So, no, the Scotty Young Venom series is when he did the big hulking Venom and he had the stuff wrapping around all the chimneys and the jumping off and the big alligator trap mouth and stuff.
And
You
the
might be
tendrils.
Yeah, the big tendrils. So the Ramos stuff came after that.
Hmm.
Yeah, because Ramos was doing Out There at the time. Yep. So
Feel free to chime in, people.
look, I may not know a lot what's going on in comics now, but up till 2005, I'm pretty good, dude. Right?
All right.
So that's when I stopped. But that part where the teeth sort of become this animated thing and he's got these things coming off in the tendrils, that all goes pretty much predates back to Marvel Superheroes. And if you notice, like Joe Matt even did a piece of art for the game, for the American release, for an ad, for Marvel Superheroes ad.
Right.
And you could see some of that Venom there, his version of that there. And then now, he's got the Jaws teeth thing and seeing the Ultimates and all that other stuff. So. Yeah, but McFarlane, I always liked the McFarlane, where it was just kind of the evil grin. And then I think Mark Bagley's, Venom run, the 4-issue symbiote, lethal symbiote, was it? Like lethal predator? That was sort of like the quintessential, Venom for me, So, yep, Todd McFarlane. But if you haven't listened to the Todd Talks and you can't find it, actually, I can always send it to you if you ever want to listen to it. You like
Okay.
podcasts. That's
Yeah,
totally awesome to
sure.
listen to. And he's since put out his book, the Todd McFarlane, like that book. I have it. It's this giant book on his life, his whole career. And a lot of those drawings are in there too. Nice big high res stuff. It's on Amazon. The Art of Todd McFarlane. So.
Nice. I do have Spawn, the first book, but I'm not really sure if that was drawn by him or if it was drawn by Greg Capullo.
No. McFarlane drew everything up till full time up till issue 16, 17, 18 or Capullo, and then Todd came back,
Okay.
and then in between there was doing breakdowns up till I think around 23, 24 started doing breakdowns. After 25, which was Image X month, starting with 26, that's when Capullo sort of came on full time.
Okay.
Like he got full credit, but for like between 22 and 24, you'll notice the art it's McFarlane but angular a little bit. It's kind of hard to describe. He was doing breakdowns and Capullo was cleaning up, and because the Capullo issues in 16, 17, 18 are very Jim Lee-ish. Like I don't know, because he just came off X-Force and had that Jim Lee look, and then Capullo took over, I believe, with issue 26. Moving after that, yeah.
Okay.
I know, right? Like I know my stuff up till 2005.
Yeah.
I just don't know anymore. Like, all right. Whew. Okay, so I got some mailbag stuff here, folks. We actually get email from time to time, and I like to build them up a little bit, and then I tell people I will reply to your email in the podcast. So if you email me, I will answer here.
You need like a little chime or something like mail call, mailbag.
Why don't you do it, Brandon?
Ching ching, mailbag.
There you go, mailbag. All right. See, that works. It's even better. All right. Okay. So we got two up. First up is Nicholas L. from Berlin. I'm not going to try and pronounce last names because I'll fuck them up. He basically says, "Hello, Rob. I found your YouTube channel and I love your artworks. I'm a total beginner and wanted to ask you if you could give me some tips. I'm really in love with your speed paintings, yay me, and watch them every day. Keep up the great work. Have a nice day. Yeah, greetings from Berlin. So he's a beginner and he wants some tips. I've been thinking a lot about this, Brandon, this beginner thing. And
Hmm.
generally, what I do, and you can disagree with me if I'm not telling the truth. When people ask me where can I start, I usually send them to Scott Robertson's How to Draw Perspective. like, like I send them over to nomonworkshop.com and
Yep.
say, here's Scott Robertson's Intro to Perspective. And I do. That's what I do, right, Brandon?
Every time.
And what people generally do when they get back to me is say, I already seen that, or I bought it. What can I do next? To which my response is, you haven't actually been doing anything on there. Like, you watched the video, you did the perspective a couple times, and then now you're trying to draw Spider-Man. And I don't, I'm having a hard time with this because I have a process of drawing that involves silhouettes and then building construction on top of silhouettes and building detail on top of the construction. In order to see things in construction, right? To see three-dimensional shapes, you have to train your mind. It's like seeing the matrix code in a way, right, Brandon? Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's hard to describe.
It's like figuring out an equation, and that's how I feel it.
Yeah, and when you can look at it, I can't see anything but a construction shape. And the where I'm trying to say in terms of a beginner is you have to train your mind to see things three-dimensionally. If you're going to illustrate, if you want to paint, you have to train your mind to see light. See everything in a positive and negative value, to see where light falls. That's a whole nother thing. But if you just want to learn how to illustrate, you have to learn to see things three-dimensionally. Doesn't mean you have to draw realistically. Doesn't mean you have to draw cartoons. Doesn't has nothing to do with how you stylize your noses or your ears. All that's irrelevant. How thick your hands are or whatever.
Right.
It has to do with being able to see three-dimensionally. And
Do things connect?
right, and I remember Hector asked me last time when I was just telling him this. He's like, "We're already on those videos. How do I transfer that perspective into drawing characters three-dimensionally?" My response is, well, once you've done this enough, you can see the characters three-dimensionally. I don't know how to describe it. There might be a way to train that that intermediate step, that in-between step. One way would be to go get the Scott Robertson Intro to Perspective DVD. It's like $40, $50, whatever. Buy it. It's worth it. The reason why is I already knew perspective and construction before I ever saw this, but Scott Robertson explains it so anyone can get it. He's a fantastic instructor. His credentials are bar none, and that's where you can learn. And you got to really practice this stuff, like how to draw cubes over a horizon line, under a horizon line. Really familiarize yourself with three-dimensional constructional shapes. I recommend maybe even learning Maya, like maybe Digital Tutors has some pretty affordable Maya training. Just so once you start using a 3D program, it can help your mind learn how things work spatially, right, Brandon? I think that's
Oh
helped you a
yeah.
little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying my art has gone leaps and bounds, but just alone from this past con, actually drawing things out and seeing where things connect, you start to see a difference once you
It it's
have
your
patience.
mind. It's your
Yeah.
mind that you have to train to see three-dimensionally. Why is this so important, folks? Well, it's important because a drawing isn't a flat piece of imagery. It's crazy. It's a volume. It's an imaginary volume, three-dimensional area. And regardless of what style you work in, everything is construction shapes. If you spend your time drawing a boot and all you draw is an outline of a boot, then you're never going to improve. I'm just telling you right now, you have to start to see that as a three-dimensional boot. Some of the things you can do for practice is draw out a grid three-dimensionally, so it's got a nice two-point perspective. And then get yourself an action figure, not a drawing of Batman, an action figure of Batman or a statue of Batman, and turn it three-dimensionally, right? And then line up, your camera, your eye, or take a photo with your iPhone, or just look at it, and draw Batman from a three-dimensional statue. Not from a drawing of Batman. Not from opening up Capullo's latest issue of fucking The Dark Knight or whatever. Like, actually draw from three-dimensional statues, from toys, and then rotate them and build those shapes out. Just work on the construction shapes. Like I did nothing but construction shape animation for 2 years. When I did do animation in college, we didn't have any time to actually ever make a character with noses and eyes. It was just their shapes. So whether it was a dog or a big creature, it was these big shapes, and then moving them and rotating, animating walk cycles at 3/4, not side views. That really is the biggest thing I can say. If you do that now and you really focus on that for a few years, you can make a pretty strong career out of it, because you won't be limited by style. Style goes over those three-dimensional shapes. If you're drawing Jim Lee super cross-hatched, superhero anatomy, it's the same shapes, right? If you're doing Sean Galloway kind of style animated art, those are shapes. So you learn the shapes, you can draw anything you want.
Right.
If you try to learn one style and you try to mimic a style, you're never going to be able to draw from imagination. You're always going to be holding up a book or looking at someone else's art or praying to the art gods that, it all worked out for you. Whenever you're drawing, you're like, if I just listen to the right music, oh my God, this will fucking work. You're just stressing and you're stressing. I
But
watch you,
that,
Brandon, like stress
yeah,
sometimes. Like,
and I mean, you're saying do perspective shapes and stuff, but that doesn't mean also stop trying to draw things. I mean, you could still try to draw heroes and such. You could still, so I don't think you just have to draw shapes and things. I
I
mean,
would warm up with shapes, and then if you're going
right,
to draw a hero, draw from a toy, draw from a
right,
statue. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
get out and actually and draw them in three dimensions, not a straight flat front view of Batman or a side view of Batman or some shit like that. Like an
right.
actual three. Only draw from 3/4 angles.
And if you can't, some people can't go out and just buy toys. Maybe, what do you think? Find ZBrush models online or some
ZBrush models,
statues.
yeah, I think that was something that I was showing you too, right? Like,
Right.
so many people render these superheroes in ZBrush now that there's tons of model sheets and nice three-dimensional statue poses. You
And you
can
can
take
rotate
those
them.
ZBrush models, take that someone already built, turn the opacity down on your computer or print it out low opacity, and trace over and just work out the shapes, like deconstruct it. Take the shapes, learn what the different muscles, move like when they're big, muscly guys, when they're realistic proportion, when they're cartoony. You can actually trace over and learn those shapes, and then take those shapes and that drawing, then looking at it without tracing, rebuild a volume on your page, a little grid, and build those things three-dimensionally. And that's really good practice. Honestly, that's the best advice I can give anybody. You know, short of me just standing there yelling at you for a year. Like,
I've had that happen.
yeah. All right, Ashley, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Uh,
Actually, oh, sorry.
hello? Oh,
No, go ahead.
um, I mean, drawing from life helps. And I mean, when I mean drawing from life, I mean, you know, I learned, I did a lot of realistic drawing and I learned how to shade that way. And that's kind of how I see things in 3D is I just drew a lot of, I inked a lot of faces with ink and painted and did pencil. And I don't know, I just kind of like, again, I just drew from life and really got that volume thing going. I mean, I'm not a very good talker, okay, so I'm sorry I'm messing
No,
this
it's
up,
fine.
No,
but
no, no, no. What I would say is here's the problem with the way art is taught, right?
and
Outside
again,
of
I'm not classically trained. I'm self-taught, so that's why I'm like I don't know what to say because I don't. I just kind of did it.
sure,
So that's why.
the way art is usually taught, and like if you go to high school in the United States, right? Those guys from Berlin, so I don't know there, but here, typically how it's taught is you walk into an art class, they go, "Welcome to art. Here's a bowl of fruit. Draw the bowl of fruit. You get a little outline. You start shading it." Now the problem when I started going to cons, comic cons around the early '90s, you know, guys would tell me don't shade anything. And the reason why is shading hides mistakes. And it's really easy to just to fill a leg up with black and go, I don't have to draw that. You know what I mean? It's filled with black. Um, but you can start to lean on that to the point where you ever open up a comic and the whole character's in shade.
Hmm.
You know what I
Now,
mean? Whole art.
I don't do that. I look at that and I go, why is half of it shaded? I mean, it's cool. Like sometimes it has a really cool effect when it's done right, but sometimes I don't know. I just feel like that was really easy.
A lot
So
of it's
that,
there to cover up mistakes for time.
yeah.
The other thing I would say is when you're in an art class, like in high school, um, people just end up smudging. They become smudge artists. So
Okay, I don't. Yeah, I've
where
never
they start
understood that.
smudging and smudging and smudging and smudging. And then if they just smudge a little bit better, they might get better, right? Like, oh, look, it looks a little better this time. And meanwhile, I always go, well, the foundation is the drawing, And if you could smudge all you want, but if you don't see that orange as a three-dimensional sphere, in your mind's eye, you don't see that as a three-dimensional object. You just see it as a 2D thing that you're kind of trying to shade around to create an illusion of depth, then you're never going to be able to improve. You have to train your mind to see three-dimensionally. And it's something that is just not taught. A lot of artists, we luck into it. Like I lucked into it. I would always go, well, things need to have weight and they need to feel, I didn't have the word three-dimensional in mind, until I saw Toy Story. I didn't really, I know I'm dating myself, right? But we didn't have computer animation, so I didn't know Tron was computer animation. I didn't know what that was. So like, I would say like a statue or a toy, I need to feel, there was a feeling that when something was drawn with weightedness or three-dimensionalness. And then at the same time, you'd see these guys that would just like, and I say guys because there weren't a lot of women drawing comics in the early 90s. It was just this flat drawing with tons of cross-hatching all over the fucking place, And it would be like, wow, if I just cross-hatched more, I don't know, it didn't seem to make it a better drawing.
Right.
So
Well,
I would, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna add, definitely like when you draw, definitely don't like shade it. Like don't like draw a little bit and then shade a little bit and then draw a little bit. I mean, I could say you could do that when you're like extremely comfortable, but the best way, in my opinion, is just to draw the entire outline first, entire construction lines. Go in and get your final lines in there. Don't heavily outline every single line because some of those lines, if you're going to shade them, you'll want them to be softer. But
True.
like the outline, like the line weights on the outside, you can kind of mess with more. But I mean, then after you get your lines done, then you can do whatever you want to with it. You can scan it in and color it digitally, or you can shade it with a pencil or inks or whatever you want to do. So that's just my opinion.
Right. And that's a very good. That's good. That's good advice. And don't worry. Actually, don't worry about the things you say or the way you word it. When I first was on the podcast with Rob, trying to explain things or even talk to him, I pissed him off so many times because I would either come off very, I don't know, arrogant or pretentious or what. I didn't know what I was talking about half the time, and the things I say didn't come out right. And
Yeah, and
that's why
yeah,
Rob Rage came out a lot back in the day. So
yeah.
you're doing just fine, and you're explaining yourself very well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next on the mailbag, Rob, Mac J.
I need the sound effect, Brandon.
Mailbag.
You change the effect. Pick one. Is it
I'm working.
ka-ching or is
No,
it ka-chuk?
Well, ka-ching is to registery. Like
I like
I'm
the
doing
ka-ching.
money. All right, ka-ching mailbag.
All right. Next up is Mac J. This is an interesting one. He goes, "Hey Rob, kudos to me. Enjoy your speed painting videos. Just discovered your stuff on Retro Video Game Magazine. The covers you've done always look vibrant and colorful. I ended up illustrating a cover for them a few issues back, and it printed super dark with muted colors. Do you have any tips on how to avoid this? Thanks, man, Mac." This is a good mailbag question because here's a guy who submitted a cover to the same publication I did, and his results ended up pretty dark, and mine didn't. So what did I do differently? I'm going to show you. Let me just switch over to the desktop here. Desktop with head. This is a picture of his art, Mac Jolly. I went to his website and dug this up. This is his Batman cover. And then let's just open up the website. First, Mac, I'm going to reference you to, if you go to sketchcraft.com, there's a playlist function right here. And you click on art tips. And I'm going to hit pause there.
White. Oh, that's amazing.
Okay. And inside this art tips is a video called so I got so many here. How to set up CMYK settings for print. 7 minutes long. I would advise everyone to watch this video so you can at least get my tips on how to set up Photoshop and prepare your art for printing. I'm going to run through some of those tips here as well. So more detail in this video, but the short bit here. So this is his Batman drawing. Now this is the RGB version of his art. So I'm going to hit Control Y. Sorry, that's RGB. This is Control Y. So RGB, Control Y, RGB, Control Y. The reason that I use a Control Y is that's previewing in CMYK using my CMYK settings. And then I'm going to go here. I'm going to close this out so I can show you. If we go to Window, there's an Info tool. we're going to click up the info tool. And what that's going to do is bring up a little eyedropper here, and it will tell you your values for RGB and CMYK. So if we select the eyedropper, I'll just hit I, and we go to somewhere that's supposed to be black in the image. Check this out. I'm going to go right there. That should be black. If you look in the info tool, it says 87% where the K, the little K is on the right-hand side right here. This is the K. So if I go in this black, it's going to say 87, it's going to say 89, it's going to say 95. Why is that important? I'll tell you why. That means, one, you didn't set up your channels to have 100% black. That's one of the first things you need to do. So if I go and take this image, convert it to CMYK, I'll go ahead and flatten. Converts it to my profile, and then we go into the channels, we'll come to the black, and we go right in these little black areas, select the area that's supposed to be black. Then we're going to hit select color range. I set to about 15 to 25%. Here I'll pick 15, F5, sorry, Shift F5. Going to go to color, and right here we're going to hit 0, 0, 0, 100. That K means black, 100% black, and fill that in there. Hit Control D, and then we'll come back. When I bring up the eyedropper tool again in that area, you're going to see it goes to, I didn't set it enough, so let's go to 25%. Needs to set it up to the point where it, well, hold on, Rob. See, it's at 99. Sometimes you have to set it up a little higher than 15. So I'll set to 25. So when we're in there, we're going to get closer, we're going to get 100%. You can see the 100% is right in there. Now, what does that mean? If you don't have a spot in your channels for 100% black, what it's going to do is when it runs through a machine, a printer, these InGen or these digital offset printers, it's going to use black to darken, it's going to add black across the whole image if you don't do that. Don't ask me why. If you do this, it will add black in a very specific spot where it's 100% and everything else will be mixtures there and out. So that right there will brighten up your image intensely, just to start off with. The other thing I would say is my CMYK settings are custom. If we go over to here and we hit, you can see it. Photoshop defaults to GCR at 300 in the total ink limit. Mine is UCR at 280. I want you to see this little clamp here. When I click on UCR, see how this raises and the black lowers? The black is raised on GCR, and these little color, this red and blue marker, are kind of in the middle. And when we hit UCR, they get clamped up at the top, and the black gets clamped down at the bottom. And then 280 is the ink limit. What that means is that every printer has these things called DPI, dots per inch, but they also have an ink coverage. Technical term is dot gain. And that's the amount of ink the printer is going to use to print your image. No one really knows about this. I don't really know a lot of books that explain it. But what happens is when you send an image that has over 300 total ink coverage, it's going to add a lot of ink onto your paper. And it can clog up the machines, by the way, too, especially on giant printers. Like when I was doing Game Fan, the magazine, and everything, I go to print those books. I had to make certain every page was 280, 285. If it hit 300, it could jam up those machines. Now, it's not going to jam up the machine when you're running like 100 sheets of paper through like an InGen or something, which is all these digital offset printers. But it will add a lot of ink to your image, which can also darken it. So we set it to 280 and UCR, and so that little dark area gets clammed down. And that will help. The other thing you can do here is I would look at this right now and still say it's a little dark. Beautiful for the computer, not so much for printing. I would come right to just levels. Once you're done with that, just go ahead and just set that up to, right in there I like to hit about 15, 10 to 15. Sometimes I over brighten it because it's going to darken when it prints. You can see that's a big difference. Now you're not getting a lot of Batman shadows right here, but you got to remember it's going to print dark because it's not being, when it prints onto paper, it's not going to be illuminated from a backlight. So you got to remember that. Another thing you can do too is make certain at the very end you sharpen and unsharp mask your final art. So it adds a little bit of crisp to it. If we come in here and I do it twice, And all it does is sharpen it, but you get an instant brightness out of it. It's very subtle, but it can make a big difference. So make certain that one, your final files that you submit obviously are CMYK. Even if they ask for an RGB version, convert all your CMYK stuff first, and then convert that CMYK back to RGB. Sometimes oversized printing asks for an RGB file. Two, make certain that you're using custom CMYK and that your ink limit is set to 280. And three, make certain that your channels have 100% black selected somewhere so that it doesn't add black over the entirety of your image. And then also go to levels and increase some of those areas. If again we come to adjustments, levels, I like to use this little area here. It's just under here. So that's a 15. Sometimes if you want to add a little bit more contrast, you can go to brightness contrast. You can check that brightness up by about 5 to 10%. Over brighten it a little bit, siding on the air that it might go a little dark. But I would tell you that right there is going to print just nice. The only other thing I can add than that is get a proof if you can, but in this case with publishers you never get a proof. You never. So, but I would say this right here will print pretty accurately. Brandon, how do you feel about any of this? Like you've seen the way my stuff prints, right?
Yeah, I mean your stuff prints, for the lack of kissing your butt, very good, very brilliant. The colors are vibrant. It's dark where it needs to be. I don't ever want to. I can't do my own printing as far as setting my colors up yet, so I still have a long ways to go with it. But your stuff always seems on point. I've never seen one where it's like, oh, that one looks bad, or this one looks too dark. You have them pretty down, pretty packed.
Yeah, the only problem I have right now is when we go to cons and we have prints, the prints are in that portfolio, and that plastic sleeve that they stay in darkens it. So some like my gritty stuff, people are like, oh, those colors are dark. And I'm like, no, just pull it out. You can see it or not.
Right.
It's just when it sits in the portfolio sleeve. I'm actually thinking now in portfolios about just 3-holing the prints, you know what I mean, that go in there so people can see what they actually look like without the fucking plastic sleeve adding a layer of interference on that. But I spent a lot of years doing this between Kinko's and then printing. With this particular piece, the only other thing I could say is maybe like these yellows, you could always come in there and maybe add a little extra glowage and stuff. Because when you're on your RGB version, if we go all the way back to the history, let me take a snapshot. Bring this all the way back to the RGB version. Oh shucks, I never saved it, so let me just paste that. You can see these are pretty saturated teals and blues and yellows, but when we hit Control Y, the saturation goes away because you're going to lose some of that. So at that point, you could always quickly duplicate, and sometimes I set it to a color dodge at like 30%, and you can automatically see even at Control Y, you get a bit more vibrancy there. That's a ghetto way of doing that, by the way. Like, I'd say that looks more vibrant, So you could merge that together, and then do your CMYK settings and stuff. So
Can I add something?
sure.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong. But if you are lucky enough to work, or I don't even lucky, but if you're so happen the printer that you're wanting to get your prints from, if you know what papers you're going to be printing on, because each paper like kind of reacts a little bit differently to how ink looks on it, then sometimes they have preset proofs that you can download onto Photoshop or whatever you're using. And I'm not saying it completely fixes the problem of, making sure your prints are ready to be printed, but I think it would help. I think they help sometimes.
Sure, but most people don't. And I'll tell
Most
you
people
too,
don't,
I'll
I
tell
know.
you too that those profiles can largely become irrelevant. So what I would say is if you understand about dot gain and you know about setting the CMYK settings and you know about setting 100% black level, you basically eliminate 60 to 80% of your problems. Right there. I've never had a problem since. And I'm telling you right now, like Ashley, when you work for I've worked in some crazy publishers, they don't tell you what paper, they never tell you what printer. You don't
Well,
get anything back. All you got to
right.
do is hope, so
And this is more of like a personal thing. Like, oh, I know I'm having control over what paper I'm printing on. Like, it's maybe you're selling prints at a con instead of like doing freelance work. That's kind of like more of what I was
Right.
doing.
In this case, but in this case, it's going to a publisher. They're printing on
Yeah,
magazine stock, and
exactly.
you don't know what kind of shit rag. Like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of the times they're printing on pulp. You ever open a
Yeah.
magazine? It's like tissue
Oh,
paper.
Game Informer
Game
is.
Informer's the
Yeah.
worst, right?
It used to be better. I missed the first issues I got way back.
Yeah,
But
before the dark times, before
it
2008.
was like 2003, I think 2004. I think it was still good back then. Not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Luckily, when I was at Play, Dave loved good paper. So, um, excuse me, but sorry.
But I
But aside from
go ahead.
that, when I was at GameFam, I didn't know anything about the dot game. You know, when you start sending, if you send a whole magazine to a printer, that dot game becomes crucial because they can't be running 10,000 copies of something that's got 385%, 425% dot game. They can't. And you come to find out, even on one-offs where you're running one or two prints, that adds to darkness because it's just more ink. You ever put more ink you put in your watercolors, the darker they get, right?
Right.
So it's the same basic idea. But yeah, I mean, look, if you have a profile, you can put it in Photoshop, you can use it. It helps. I'll still say that it's so-so. The only other thing, and the video gets more into it, sometimes your colors, when you switch to CMYK, even with my settings, the reds will turn orange and blues will turn purple. I got some really quick and easy. Brandon, you're breathing in the mic. I got some really quick and easy solutions for that, how to switch them over. So I would just check out that video in the playlist too. And then again, if you have any other questions, just hit me up. So where are we at right now? We're at, 36 minutes. All right, so that's it. Oh, really quickly. Both Mac and Nicholas said they love the speed painting videos. I just wanted to say that speed painting videos are coming regularly now. I got the video rig up and I'm rendering out a new one now. So every week, once or twice a week, there's going to be new speed paint videos. I already put up the Batman Saucy speed paint. I put up a new Digiscape. We've got new landscapes coming regularly too, every week. And I got some Ruffy stuff I'm going to go over. I got the X-Men Ruffy I'm going to put up, and then I got some more Saucy stuff and some more Digiscape. So plenty of speed paints coming. I know a lot of people at this Comic-Con we were at were saying, oh, there's a lot of real-time art videos. And that's because I stream every fucking thing I do. But then I also download those videos and make speed paint. I just haven't in the last few months because I've been getting that video rig back up to where it can do that. So going to be more speed paint videos coming. All right, so Brandon, let's talk about the big thing that we did this week, which was
Yay, amazing Arizona Comic Con.
right. Dun, 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 dun. All
I
right.
was jealous. I wanted to be there. I wanted to do
Oh,
something. I know
oh,
it's kind of. I know it's not that. It can't. It's not always glorious, but
it was glorious, all right. And
First, I want to preface: we like Jimmy J, right? Jimmy.
yep,
We like Jimmy J, the guy who runs the Amazing Arizona Con. I personally like the kinds of shows he puts together. His shows are focused on artists. They're focused on
creators.
creators and comic books. So he does a show in Vegas that I really, really, really love, and he did this show this weekend, which even the show didn't turn out so great. That's not Jimmy's fault. What I would say is this, folks. Sometimes, no matter how good a show is put together, it could have 120,000 people, like San Diego Comic Con. I have 120,000 people at it. You could still do nothing. Sometimes that's the way it works. In this case, everyone kind of felt the heat this time. Sometimes the show just doesn't work out. For me, I start banning shows from my ever going to list when the promoters just end up in a shady situation. Like you got guys that put wrestling mats next to the fucking artist alley, or you got which just
Right.
happened. You got guys that want to charge you $250 for Wi-Fi access. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. So then they
Phoenix
end,
Con.
Phoenix Con. Then they end up
or
getting
light or like hooking up to electricity.
usually
Oh
that's
yeah.
$100, but I've seen $250
Yeah.
for electrical, which is fucking
It's been pretty
ridiculous. So,
bad.
or if someone wants $450 for an artist alley
And
table,
what really pisses me off is when people go, "Hey, can you charge my phone for me?" And I'm like, "You gonna buy something?"
right? Yeah,
That
good. Go get
that
me a
hasn't
coffee.
been
You
a
know.
while.
So,
Yeah.
so that being said, Brandon, let's walk through. Let's walk through the Arizona Con. Right? You haven't done much talking, so you gotta
Okay.
contribute.
Okay. Friday, we go there a little early. We set up. Everything seems great. We got a nice spot. right next to my buddy Mike Vasquez. Mike Goes Geek on Instagram. He's a great guy. To the right of us is Alex Kotkin. Just met him. Great guy. Does Zenoscope stuff. And Jeremy, I can't remember his last name at the moment. Um, Great guy, big talker.
He
Lots
does
likes to
the
talk.
CGC stuff, right?
Yeah.
Comics grading. He does a lot of inking.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's nice. Everything's great setup. Going good. Friday went well. We did pretty decent. I don't have much to add about
I
Friday.
would say Friday was pretty slow. Let's say so the con went from Friday to Sunday
Mm-hmm.
at the Phoenix Convention Center. I rolled into town Thursday. I get there a little late Thursday night. You were playing video games. Put you back to work. We got down to yeah, that was fun.
That
And
wasn't fun.
then Brandon thought it'd be really nice the night before a con to play Rainbow Six.
Okay, I
But did
wasn't
not
playing
go
it. I tried to play video games.
right.
I
Yes.
tried. You were
Right.
you were unpacking, and I go, it's 11 o'clock at night. Maybe I can get in like an hour of video games because I haven't played all week. And then Rob shut that shit down.
Yeah, shut it down. Put you back to work. Then we get up in the morning. We head down there. We got there. What time did it open up?
3, and we got there around 1.
Around 1. So we got set up pretty early, which
Hmm.
is nice. We actually got in the back. Got there early. If you go, folks, if you're setting up for your booth, always get there early because the back is open and you can get in.
It was nice for you.
Yeah, it was nice for me.
We started getting set it up, and then you're like, "Hey, Brandon, we forgot something in the car. Go
That
get it." So I
that
go
was
to get
that.
it.
Oh, that was that day.
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, the gates will be open for another half hour." I'm like, "Sweet." I get back in 10 minutes, and the gates are closed, and my fat ass has to walk around the whole damn building.
So another pro tip: bring an assistant to go back to the car for you, so you don't have to subject yourself to the heat of Arizona. But
Yes.
we got to the con, and I would say the con was pretty dead. Like we did some sales, I got some commissions going between people
Well,
there and online.
Friday and it's in downtown on a Friday at like late in the day. Most people don't get off work till 5, so that you lose 2 hours of the con. And who's going to want to come down to the con for an hour or two?
I don't know about all that because they do it. I've seen cons that do it, but let's just say at this time the con wasn't so busy that night. So we get back to your pad, catch some Z's, do some commission work, get back up in the morning. We show up Saturday. Saturday, right? So we show up
Hmm.
Saturday. Saturday was better, right?
Hmm. It was a little more busy. It was definitely more busy. Getting more commissions, more people coming up to the table, actually checking things out, talking to us, asking us questions. Um,
We saw
all
some people that watched the stream. They watched the actual
Yeah,
podcast and everything. Like, I watched the show, and Brandon's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "You may recognize these hands. These
right. these
hands.
these beautiful
You
hands.
might know me from moves such as this and that. The straight connect the dot. The the
Have you
foreshortening.
you bent your head over? Have you seen the top of this hat?
Right.
Looks too familiar.
Yeah, all of this. So that was nice. And then Brandon did something awfully fun. So
So here's where the fun starts to finish off my Comic Con weekend. There's 5-10 minutes left, and I go across directly from us to talk to a guy named Joey. Nice guy. Nice. I don't want to call him a kid, but he's probably a couple years younger than me. But nice guy. I'm checking out his art. Good stuff. To the right of him is I don't want to say names, but a girl who has vintage kind of cosmetic looking art kind of stuff, but she has these big black borders on the sides of her that boxes her in.
now hold on.
You
I want to preface this by saying this is the same person who sat next to us at the Vegas con, correct?
Oh, correct. Yes, correct. We
And so
said I started Vegas.
she had set up a booth that had these walls that kind of extend outward, and only her and one other person had this kind of similar setup. They set up these things, and it's very difficult for people walking down the aisle to see into your booth if you've got a wall blocking that view from both sides.
From every
Right?
side, and they go. The walls go from the front of the table to back. Like there's a table in the back as well that kind of makes this cave-like spot. So me being me
Now,
and
hold on. I got to
yeah.
preface this again, folks. Brandon the whole time kept mentioning to me, "Oh, she's got that stuff that's set up, and you noticed that not a lot of people were coming up, and maybe someone should tell her." And I told you to stay the hell out of it, right?
Yep, and I wanted to play with the grenade. I was like, "Hey, toss me the grenade. It seems fun. What could go wrong? I want to play this game." Rob warned me many times, and I held out until the last 5 minutes. And I walked my happy ass over there. And here's my exact words that I said to her. I said, "Wow, you have some really cool stuff. Have you ever thought about propping it up at an angle in front of you instead of kind of boxing yourself in?" Her response, plain and simple, "No." I'm like, okay, that went bad. So then it went bad. So then I divert to a piece of her art, which I'm not a fan of any of it, and I'm not the world's greatest artist, but it had some cool some cool colored hair on the piece, and I don't know why. I'm trying to save it now at this point. Like it's just going bad after the wall thing. And I'm like, this is really cool. Have you ever thought about maybe a little core shadow around the face and it would really make that hair pop out? Her response was, "No." And I'm like, okay, walk away. And I don't because I'm an idiot. And I go, "Oh, well, I got some time to kill. If you ever wanted me to draw on a piece or, we could help you or just show you some tips and stuff. We like to do that with other artists. That'd be really cool." Her response is, "You want to draw on my art?" And I'm like, fuck me. There's no getting out of it now. I've already got shot in the leg. I'm going down. It's over. So I replied, "No, no, my mistake. I just thought it'd be cool collaborate with people. It's always fun." I turn away and go back to the table and look at Rob like someone just shot my dog.
Now,
So
now hold on. Before we continue, because the story doesn't end there, folks.
no,
Let me explain a few reasons why I
where
give
it went
advice
wrong.
like let me give some advice, folks. Don't give people advice unless they come up to you asking for it. It's my advice.
Hmm.
On especially artists. A lot of artists, they really don't want critique. They want validation. Okay? And you can kind of tell the difference, by the fact that if someone wants critique, they're going to hand you your portfolio and ask you to give them critique. When they're just sitting there, they kind of don't want your opinion. I don't care if you're Todd McFarlane or if you're Brandon Lead Heavy James. They don't want to hear it. They're not there to hear that from you.
Hmm.
And having gone to an art school filled with a bunch of crazy psycho fuckers who had no business being in an art school because they didn't actually earn their place there, they just paid their way to be in there with student loans. I watch people every day run out crying because they get a review that just didn't validate their existence as an artist.
Right.
It's very difficult in this country. We teach art as an expression rather than a vocation, rather than a job. It's like it's intrinsically tied to your core expression of yourself. And so when you say, "Hey, there are ways you can improve on this," what a lot of people hear is you're telling me I'm not a complete person, that I'm not perfect and good, that I need improvement. And people really don't want to hear that. And
Hmm.
I've had to learn, through a lot of pain, Brandon, uh, to just stay the fuck out of it. You know what I mean? Like, first off, and I'm going to say this, folks, I don't do the best at cons. I'm not a genius. I don't walk away with 10 grand in my pocket. I go, "Man, I'm fucking king of con." You know what I mean? I don't got this wall of prints with fucking billions of fucking prints everywhere. I'm not hustling $600 sketch covers and shit, all right? I don't got a line of rock star chicks in fucking bikinis and cosplay outfits, right? Lining up to go to sketchcraft.com or take
You got
photos of me.
me.
I got this guy. I got
You got
Cosbro,
me.
Brandon, Let Heavy James. And Brandon's the guy that I'm like, okay, I'm going to help Brandon. And I try to help you. And I think because I help you, sometimes you're like, I want to pay it forward. And you're not at that point where you can do that yet.
That's how I felt. That's how I was like, you know what? I'm feeling good. I want to make somebody else feel good.
And it went bad.
Oh,
Now let's fast forward just a few hours, right? Because actually, this gets awesome. So fast few hours, we get dinner.
you get a I
Wait,
get
hold
a
on.
message.
Yeah, yeah. We get dinner. We have our phones off because I have this rule about leaving our phone off when we eat dinner, right? I don't like
Hmm.
the shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you appease me and leave your
Yep.
phone off. We get done with dinner. We head back to your place. What happens?
So I get a message from her ex-boyfriend, I guess, for lack of better terms, who is also a quotation here artist at Comic Con,
Who's at the same Comic
and
Con?
he was at the same Comic Con, and he says, "Hey," and I didn't respond because he sent it maybe right before we started dinner, and I didn't respond 2 hours later. Then I go to his page trying to figure out why is this guy messaging me, and would you like me to read the his post?
Well, just give me a gist. I don't want to.
Okay, well, basically he called me a dumb fucking cunt, Sorry if that offends women. That I know they don't like that word. Not my word. His. He said I ruined her show experience by harassing a vendor who is infinitely more skilled than me, more liked and talented than my pathetic ass. Also, if I want to talk, come talk to him first, bitch. That was how the post started. Uh, then he goes on to saying that in all honesty, I've had it coming for a while, and he's going to break my legs. I completely was irrational on this girl, and it was unprovoked. And then he finishes it with, "It's just a matter of being a decent human being," which I've never read a sentence where they say they're going to break my legs and be a decent human. But hey,
Now
to each
let
his
me
own.
stop you there, Brandon. Now the reason why I have Brandon bring this story up isn't because I want to point a light in this guy's direction. I'm not even going to give this guy a name or a link. I
Nope,
don't care about that.
nope.
What I'm trying to do, folks, for those that watch the show, and is try to help you to never have a con experience like this again. I vaguely remember high school, right? Like in the twilight of my mind, I remember, oh, that was a place I went to for 4 years, right? That was fun. 19 was, we had, remember we used to listen to Soundgarden, The Crow, that, right? But I forget all the shit that went down during lunch, right? Or
Right
like
after
out in front
school
of the band
fights.
room, which there was always something weird going on there. I wasn't in band, but I'd see drama all the time. Like, I forget about this. And this weekend, I got to relive it through Brandon. And I remember telling Brandon, like, so not that I fear for your life because Brandon's a big guy, like,
Yeah,
and you live furniture for. So I'm like, well, I'm not scared for you. I don't need drama at my table. I don't
right,
need this chick feeling whoever it was you talked to. I don't need her feeling any kind of weird drama. I don't want to be in her sights. I don't,
right.
you know what I mean? She's not a fan. I don't know her. I just, this is all unnecessary. Now, I'm not going to blame Brandon for this guy's weird ass response. But what I would say is this: if you had just kept your mouth shut and maybe focused on drawing a sketch cover, none of it would have happened,
There's
right?
five. There's 5 minutes left, and I poked the bear for lack of better terms.
Yeah, yeah,
I messed with who's a good wrestler? You know the Undertaker, right?
yeah.
Who's the little guy with him? His
Paul
little
Bear.
side, Paul Bear. Okay, I poked Paul Bear, and then I got the Undertaker's wrath here.
Yeah, yeah,
That's pretty much what it went down. And so I messaged him, said, "Hey, I don't know about all that you're talking about breaking my legs, but I will talk to you like a man before the show starts, away from all the tables, away from people's art, because I didn't want the worst thing I would want is, let's say it did come down to fisticuffs and we got in a fight and I knocked over someone's table and ruined their like $300 banner and fucked their day up. I'm not about that. I really as
Not to
much as
mention, I would stop being your friend.
Right, but I respect other artists. I mean, I really do. I buy art at shows. I want sketches from other artists. I really enjoy other people's art, and I don't put it down. I mean, I may not like it, but I still appreciate the effort that comes from people. So I go up to him and I pull him aside and I say, "Hey, I apologize that I made her feel maybe uncomfortable or offended by what I said, but nothing I said was malicious, hurtful, or mean. It doesn't warrant you trying to say all those things you were going to do to me, which I don't think you're going to do." Which he said no. He said he was in a rage. I told him to shake my hand like a man, and I said that was that. I walk away thinking it's over, right? It's not over. So one of two things happen after that. One, he goes to another table and
Talks a
continues
bunch of
to,
more trash, right?
yes, more
And then
trash.
two, he emailed the promoter, Jimmy.
Yes, this is the part that really pisses me off. Either sometime that night or during that morning, he emailed Jimmy J and a very cryptic message saying Brandon James harassing tables or some stuff. And Jimmy J had to pull me aside, okay? And his first words were, "Brandon, you're always up front with me. You always support other local artists, and you've been doing this show for however many years it's been, because I've done it since day one. Like, I've been a huge Jimmy J fan and the whole con experience with them and Holly Jensen, all of them. I love them." And he said, "Just tell me what this is all about." I explained it to him just like I did the cast. I showed him the very hateful posts on Facebook, and
Right, right.
he said, "This is very high school, and he's not going to do anything to deal with it because he knows that I already handled it as I should as a professional." He said he appreciates me talking to him, and he knows that I did nothing malicious. So He didn't really. He didn't. I don't want to say it's bad. He didn't take a side, but he knew me long enough, and he knew that when I'm telling him the situation, that I'm not bullshitting him, I'm not lying, and I'm upfront about it. Because if anything, I'm upfront. I'm very blunt. I may not always say
All
the
right, okay,
right
okay, you're repeating
things,
yourself. All right. So I
but
want to
yeah.
move on. So the thing is,
Sorry.
Brandon, is as we all know, we're artists. You know, we sort of feed on emotion. You know, we're drawing with emotion. We're passionate people.
Right.
I always bring it back to years ago when I was working on Monstrates. They had some initial designs, and so I thought I would start this whole podcast YouTube thing with a Making Monstroids design blog, where I would be like, "Here's the designs I was, I were handed to me. They wanted something different, so I would show that evolution." Well, the person, because the internet's a small place, Brandon, the person who
Mm.
did those initial designs sent me one hell of an email. You know what I mean? About how dare you put my stuff up and you don't understand it was a different thing and you're talking shit about my art. And I'm like, I just said that I wasn't really, like that's not, you know? So unless people like Mike Mac Jolly specifically ask me for help, how to set up my printing, or Rob, someone says, how do I improve this piece of art? I always ask on the stream, hey, can I show it on the podcast? We'll talk about it there. Or sometimes I'll send them a private MP3, which Ashley, I've done for you, right? When you had questions back in the
Yeah.
day, right? I'd send you a private thing because I don't fucking type. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. I type for one thing, Game Cave. That's it. I'm not typing emails to people. But I don't go out of my way. I didn't like open up Ashley's portfolio and be like, "Hey, Ashley, you know what you could really do is change the way this hand is drawn." Like, who fucking cares what I think? That you're just assuming that you fucking know everything. One, and even if you have the best intentions, people aren't asking you for help. And even if they do, my advice would be is if their art portfolio looks like something that's vaguely out of high school, just tell them, look, what are you trying to do? If they say I'm trying to draw comic books, then say, I think you're on a good path. You should continue what you're doing. Continue to, build up your construction. Continue your storytelling. You know what I mean? And show your stuff around. Because I personally am not in a position to hire anybody. So unless I was in a position to hire, even if I thought it was the greatest art in the world, it kind of doesn't fucking matter. You understand what I mean?
Hmm.
And when I was at Big Dog, when I used to go to all these cons with Tom, people would show me their portfolios all the time. And if they were dope, I would send them to Tom. Like, well, that's the guy who cuts the checks. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so,
You did that with
Natalie and
Natalie.
yeah, a couple other people. So in that play, it was the same thing. That being said, when people show me their portfolio now, I'm like, well, what are you trying to do? Okay, you're trying to work here, then you should show that guy right over there, because I don't need the fucking hurt, and I don't
Hmm.
need this trouble, and I don't need I don't really want anyone to. I don't think it's the Matrix, folks. It's the best way I can explain it. They're not at a position where they're ready to hear what I have to say anyhow, so they would just feel hurt, and I don't need an artist feeling hurt. You know what I mean? Like they're not there for that. They're there to sell some art, make some connections, network. Not really there for that. So that being said, Ashley, have you ever done any portfolio critique or shown your stuff around cons and stuff?
Mm-mm.
No.
No, only critiques really were in high school and in AP art class, and those are, high school. So,
Right. Yeah. So my biggest advice would just be that if you want to work somewhere, show your stuff directly to those people. But Brandon, don't ever give your advice
Oh, I'm done.
unsolicited at cons ever
I am
again.
done.
Don't ever do that.
Only time I will say anything is just when I like the person's art, which I do.
Yeah, you get a big thumbs up. That's awesome. Otherwise, keep your mouth shut.
That is true. That's happening.
So wrapping it all up, other than that, the con was actually real fun for me. Like, I'm exhausted. I was drawing from Saturday, Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the way through. Yesterday, my hand was wobbling because I was
I
painting.
produced some good art.
Yeah, Brandon
I
actually did
stepped
the
it up.
construction. He did the construction. He did smooth lines. He did solid Copic coloring. Sold a few things. You even got enough now. Going for a monthly. You made a big fan, right, Brandon?
I did. I did. A nice family bought a Spider-Man SketchCraft from me, and he wants to buy a couple more.
Yeah, so it was really good. And Brandon was getting a lot of compliments on his improvements, so that was good. For me, doing the sauces at con went really well. That was the thing I was worried about. Can I paint here? And I get all stressed out and shit.
There
But that
really wasn't a problem. I mean, besides you painting on my jeans, that's cool.
Yeah, well, I wore the apron and Brandon didn't, so
I need like a splash guard when I'm around you.
yeah, we got to work on that. But I thought it would be more trouble than it was, but it really wasn't that bad at all. So all in all, that went really well. If I hadn't done the commissions, the con probably would have hurt a little bit more. Well, it would have definitely hurt a little bit more than it did.
Right.
But I just chalk it up to it was a tough con for everybody. I broke even, so it didn't hurt me, it didn't help me at the end of
I
the day.
didn't. I didn't. I didn't break even.
Oh yeah, because the booth, right?
Yeah.
So we'll split that in half. So
No, I know. I'm not worried. I'm just.
yeah, I got to
I'm
send you
just
half of the
bullshitting.
booth. So you'll eat a little bit, but not all of it.
Um, just real quick, I know it's a little off topic. I do want to. I know we were talking about the whole con. I just, I don't know if they'll listen, but I did enjoy the whole con. Big thanks to Jimmy J and Holly Jensen there who run the cons, and we're gonna be doing Vegas Con again with them. So, and we're gonna have 2 tables there, so that's gonna be really nice. Um, and another thank you to my 2 friends, Shop the Mystic and City Under the Sea on Instagram. They are 2 awesome females that do very cool, crafty stuff. So I really appreciate them and talking to them at the con. Bam.
Sweet. Anyone have anything else? Ashley, not a lot from you tonight.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I wish you were there, Ashley. I did get a few
Nah.
people complimenting you on the cast, so you should know. People think
Yay.
you're a good addition, and that
Thank you.
they're glad to see that I'm not the only one talking. No, but actually, they really appreciated your input. Someone was making a joke about your lack of PlayStation saves, which I thought was funny. So
Oh.
yeah, and I got a makeup potato for Brandon. That was awesome.
Did you?
Yeah,
I didn't catch that.
yeah. Well, your drama threw me off a little bit.
That that threw off everything. I mean, I forgot my Copics that day because of that. I forgot. We forgot we forgot the banners, the banner cases, and the crate. So I had to drive home with the last hour of the con left, and then speed back with all the stuff to load it up.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
But for me, it was nice to have a night to sleep off and drive back the next day, as opposed to my driving all night and going back to work situation. So I recommend if you can take the day off after con to do it, folks. Better the day off after than even before, to be perfectly honest with you. So thank you, Brandon, for letting me stay at your place. That was nice of you.
And just real quick, actually, I don't know how many cons you've done, but whenever you do eventually start doing cons regularly, you're not to kiss your ass, but you are really talented, and you're gonna blow half these people away. Like the stuff we see at con, it's not the greatest, but the stuff you're producing at home, like once you kind of get in your groove of being out in front and just talking to people and being the center of attention, you're really gonna kick ass at cons. So
Thank you.
that's gonna be something cool to look forward to, and it's cool having you on the cast, knowing that we have someone else that's just like on the come up and they're gonna kick butt. So it's cool. So
Aw, can you
Shut-
feel the love tonight? Alrighty, well, we got other stuff to do, folks. It's been really fun. We'll be back in another week. Brandon, where can we find you on the internet?
you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Lead Heavy, LEAD Heavy.
And Ashley, where can people find more of your art and stuffs on the internet?
You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and I'm Gangfeather.
Perfect. As always, you can find me at rob@sketchcraft.com. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that good stuff. Oh, well, look, there's the email right there. And don't forget, folks, Sketchcraft is recorded in front of a live internet audience and supported by listeners like you. All right, I'm out of here, folks. Let's go.
Bye.
Bye.